Wednesday, grade 4s. I'm excited that you're here to do some comprehension with me. So make sure you have your booklet and a pencil, and let's get started.
All right, so we're going to do this comprehension together for Wednesday the 25th of March. And we're going to be reading about Children's Day in Japan. So before we get started, just look at the top. We always read our worksheet and see what it's asking us to do. It says, as you finish each paragraph, recall the main idea. So all that means is as we read the paragraph, we're going to say what it's about. And that we'll do together. So let's start reading. Children's Day in Japan. Let me get my pen. Okay. Every year on May 5th, people in Japan celebrate a festival known as Children's Day. The festival celebrates the happiness of children and mothers across the country. It is a national holiday for everyone in Japan. So the main idea of this paragraph is talking about people in Japan celebrating Children's Day. You know what, I'm going to highlight this because I think the highlighter will work better. So people in Japan are celebrating a festival known as Children's Day. And then the paragraph goes on to talk about what that is. All right. So the first paragraph is introducing Children's Day in Japan, and then it's on May 5th. Okay, now the second paragraph, Children's Day probably began as a festival for boys around AD 600. People flew flags shaped like a fish called a carp. A carp is a symbol of strength and health. Each boy had his own flag, and the oldest boy had the biggest flag. People still carry carp flags today, but in 1948, the Japanese government changed the festival so that it celebrated both boys and girls. So that paragraph, I think it's talking about, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, it's talking about the history of the festival. So the first paragraph introduced the festival, and now we're talking about the history. So where did it get started? How has it changed over time? So for this one, it probably, and again with history, often we use words like probably because we don't know for sure the timeline, so they don't know the exact date. So they're not saying on May 5th, 2,000 years ago we did this, but we do know that it's been around since AD 600, so it's a really long time. So this one talks about the history. So that's how it's changed and where it started. And then I should put this here, introduction. It introduces Children's Day. Introduces the topic for you, the reader. All right, so the first one is an introduction. The second paragraph is talking about the history of the festival, and we're going to read the third paragraph together. Sorry. People in Japan do many things on Children's Day. They eat special treats such as rice cakes wrapped in oak leaves. They also take hot baths in water that has the leaves of rice cakes. Mrs. Oakes, I'm going to do the thing that I usually do in class, where I use a pen to help me know where I am with my reading, because it's hard to read and hold a phone to video at the same time. So I'm going to go through with my pen and we're going to try this again. Sorry, guys. Even teachers make mistakes. People in Japan do many things on Children's Day. They eat special treats such as rice cakes wrapped in oak leaves. They also take hot baths in water that has the leaves of iris plants in it. So oak leaves and iris plants are plants. And if you think, okay, that might be a theme of Children's Day, growing. These leaves are said to be good for a person's health. But the children in Tokyo, the capital of Japan, get something extra special. They compete in the Kids Olympics on Children's Day. There's a torch relay and races for kids and their parents. So, before you're too old, plan a trip to Japan to celebrate Children's Day and have fun being a kid. All right, so this is a pretty cool passage, actually. It was quite interesting. And so the last one is telling you the things that happen on Children's Day. So if you went to Children's Day, what could you expect? What do you expect? What to expect if you go? And you're also looking at just telling how people celebrate, right? So our 3 paragraphs, we've talked about we're introducing Children's Day, we're talking about how it began, its history, and then we're talking about what people do to celebrate Children's Day, because it's different than you could think about what people do to celebrate, say, Christmas. Children's Day is a holiday in a different way, so it's good to explain what happens on that holiday so that you understand kind of what it would be like to celebrate. Okay, so we're going to move down to strategy. Okay, so how did the main idea help you better understand the passage? So knowing that this is the introduction, just telling you what it's about, knowing that this is the history, and then knowing that this is what they do on Children's Day. Knowing all of that will help you to understand what the things in the paragraph mean. So it kind of helps you organize it in your brain to know what you're reading about. Okay, so knowing what each paragraph is about helps you to organize the information in your brain a little better. Okay, let's go down to the skills practice. Again, this is something that you can do on your own. If there was something that when thinking about the main idea of the paragraph, if it helped you better understand the passage, you can write it down there, or you can just think about it. Okay, we're going to go down to skills practice. Read each question, fill in the bubble next to the correct answer. Now remember, when we do multiple choice questions, we want to make sure that our answer is the best answer for the question that's being asked. Okay, so we have to very carefully read the questions. So number 1, what is the passage mostly about? Okay, so is it mostly about flags in Japan? Is it mostly about changes in Japanese holidays? Is it mostly about a festival celebrating children, or food and drinks made from rice? So again, the whole passage was about Children's Day. Oh, sorry. Doesn't want to. So the whole passage was about Children's Day in Japan. So if we go and we read, it's not all about mostly about flags in Japan. It's not mostly, we do talk about changes in holidays, but just Children's Day. This one, we're going to say it's definitely about a children's festival, and that is not what it's mostly about. So the passage is mostly about a festival celebrating children. So a festival celebrating children. Okay, number 2. So this one is asking, what do people in Japan not do on Children's Day? So this is something that wouldn't be in here. What do they not do? So this one's tricky because they're using language that's used in the passage, but they're changing something slightly. So see if you can hear what they've changed. So A, do they not, remember not, wrap up rice cakes in iris leaves, fly cart flags, eat special treats, or take baths with iris leaves? So if you notice that iris leaves comes up 2 times. Okay, and if we look up here, let's read through. Oh, well, right away here, look at the information. They eat special treats such as rice cakes wrapped in oak leaves. All right. They take hot baths in water that has the leaves of iris plants in it, and these leaves are said to be good for a person's health. All right. So looking here, they do fly cart flags, they do eat special treats, and they do take baths with iris leaves. But they don't eat rice cakes wrapped in iris leaves. They actually eat them wrapped in oak leaves. So A is our correct answer. All right, number 3. According to the passage, what changed about Children's Day in 1948? So A, boys could celebrate but girls could not. B, it became a national holiday. C, it celebrated girls as well as boys. Or D, people began using cart flags. So let's look here to check it out. So 1948. So we'll scan the passage. And that would probably be in the section about history, right? Because history is what would have been what happened in 1948. So each boy had his own flag. The oldest boy had the biggest flag. Oh, in 1948, the Japanese government changed the festival so that it celebrated both girls and boys. Our answer is right here. So looking for 1948, we can read this sentence to figure out what it's asking. But in 1948, the Japanese government changed the festival so it celebrated both boys and girls. All right, so boys can celebrate. Oh, there we go. It says just the same wording. It celebrated girls as well as boys. So C is my best answer for the question. Okay, which of these is likely to happen on the next Children's Day? A, people will stop celebrating in Japan. B, people will fly cart flags. C, only girls will participate. Or D, people will stop eating special treats. So you need to understand that this probably isn't going to happen. But people do fly cart flags. That's the big part of the festival. Girls and boys participate, so that doesn't make sense. And people do eat special treats. So I think that the most likely thing to happen, people will fly cart flags. All right, so we've just gone through the comprehension, but now I invite you to go to Class Dojo. On Class Dojo, I posted some links here to Children's Day information. So there's some really cool sites that you can read about Children's Day in Japan. So I've posted the sites onto Class Dojo, and I think you should check it out. And for some extra reading if you're interested, because it's actually pretty cool. And there's a lot of neat things. You can even see, oops, sorry, just gonna open it up. You can see the different oak leaf. This is the oak leaf treat. These are the cart flags. So on the links that I posted, there's some things about the types of plays that they do. There's all sorts of things that they do. So definitely head over to Class Dojo to find some links for additional reading if you're interested.
It was helpful and answered any questions you might have. If you still have any questions, you can always send me a message or an email, and I will try to help you over Class Dojo. Make sure you check back tomorrow for more comprehension.